welcome to the latest episode of Enterprising Minds. We have a good one for you because Alex and I have been kind of on the same wavelength without realizing it, as we talked about what we were going to talk about before hitting record. So I think we will start with Alex, and then we will broaden it out to my topic, which is, if I was to start something today, would it be the same recommendations that I would make when I started my career? So do you do paid search? Do you do display ads? Do you blog? Do you, what's your approach to launching something? But Alex has a much more interesting example to start with. So I'll let you kick it off.
Yeah, this is an odd one, but it's been on my brain for over a week now because it is oddly really good marketing. And it suggests a whole lot behind it, which maybe...
Amazing how rare that is.
What's that?
It's amazing how rare that is. Good marketing.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and this was like a random, promotional email that I was looking at, and I was like, dang, this is solid. Like, I'd like to replicate this. And what it was, and it's just kind of a funny example. It's a very simple example as well. It's Valvoline oil change, which there's a ton of these locations all over the place to do quick oil changes. And I was a customer of theirs in the past, so they have my email address and they have a little bit of information about my vehicle and information about it. So they sent me this email on a Sunday that says, "Is Valvoline open on Sundays?" And the first line of the body copy says, "Yes. And this is your local location, include an address." Not a clickable link, should have been. They could do a little bit better there. But then also like the operating hours. And that was it. And it was surprisingly good marketing, because if I want to kind of tear this apart piece by piece of basically is, how do you get to a point like this? What kind of elements does it have? And then also, what does this suggest, and where can you kind of take this for other applications? So the first one basically is an instance of timing. So they knew the last time that I came into one of their shops, the particular location, because that's the address, the information, or operating hours that they gave me. And they had an estimation on when I would return. So that's a reorder. Anybody who repurchases your service, your product, you think about your churn rate, reducing that. This is that timing, and that's when this well-timed email hit. It hit honestly on a Sunday, which is a little late on a Sunday, to be honest. So timing of actually the exact send of the week was a little off. I would honestly say Saturday, or Saturday midday, or do it on Sunday or something like that, because you're planning out your weekend and you can see this. And then it goes to this broader question of this inspiration for this idea. And that, I think, is a good piece that we can really kind of talk about too, is where do ideas like this come from? Where do you source these ideas? And then where do you apply these ideas? So my first thought from an SEO background, I was thinking, Answer the Public. There's another one out there called Answer Socrates. I just found that's free with no login, very similar system. Pulls in all these questions that are commonly asked at Google. So you have a bunch of those. You don't necessarily have volume on it. But they're common questions. I mean, good stuff for FAQ copy, good stuff for a lot of different things. But maybe it's just higher volumes of customers on the weekends, or high on Saturday, low on Sunday, even though they have good operating hours, something like that. They've noticed that trend, so they want to kind of boost that up. But you could take this from customer service calls, and you could make an email out of a customer service call question. If someone calls you, that's probably 1 in 20 people who are actually going to pick up the phone and ask you a question. There's a good chance a lot of other people have that same question. What can you do with that, that little nugget now, this little insight about your customer? You could make email copy. You could totally make search ad copy saying, anybody searching for an oil change, competitors, you name it, is Valvoline open on Sunday? Yes. Like your local location, check it out. Mm-hmm. You can target that. You can geo-target stuff, of course, as well on top of that. But this really could be any question, any common question about your product or service. You could bring it up. And if it's very conversion focused like this was, you time it with when somebody's going to do a reorder. If it's not, you can still make email copy out of it. You can still make SEO copy out of it. You could still make social media copy out of it. I don't know. This gets into this bigger question of where do you source this information and then how do you integrate? And it's a difficult question. I think it's constantly a difficult question. Realistically, you have all these different SMEs. They're very, very good at the individual tasks that they do. But do they talk to each other? And the big question is, why would they talk to each other? And it's something like this would inspire that collaborative organization. So you got that mix.
Yeah. And this is where one of those things where the first things that come to mind is the size of the organization, knowing your business in and out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the advantages of automation have always been the small to medium size organizations, right? All of the times that I've played with marketing automation, which I'm sure they inevitably used for your email, it really only works if the data is good. And the only way the data is good is to have only a couple of people dealing with the data. And where I think really large organizations fall down is just having so many things siloed, or the 20,000 meetings you have on roles and responsibilities instead of just doing a thing. It's like, this is an old reference, but the Pretty Woman movie where she's in the store and it's like, I have money. It's like, just let me do a thing. I know how to do it.
I was thinking about that even with like a GSC keyword database or something. And I was like, okay, we could create a database like that. We could chop it up by, department, division, business, however your company is, segmented up or broken up, product line.
Right.
And I could send it to these different groups. And I was thinking, well, no, that's actually a really bad idea. Because basically, once I start segmenting this stuff up, everybody's going to go off and run off and go do their own random thing. And that will likely overlap with others. And it would make more sense to keep it together, more focused, and then say, okay, here's how to basically implement these different pieces, pull in these groups basically ad hoc, or just give them free reign to the whole database and see what happens. Big fan of that option too, because give it a shot and try to get some activity and some excitement around it, see some value out of it, and other people will replicate it too. And then you can make something out of it versus spending a whole bunch of time prepping something that may never happen.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I don't know if this is just a Minnesota thing, but the fact that we don't have car sales on a Sunday makes me think that this question could be a very regional issue, whereas that you're busy, you don't think too much about it. You just know generally car plus Sunday equals no. Like,
yeah.
So it's like, okay, if I can't get the oil change or if I can't get my car in the shop at the dealer on Sundays because they're closed, that is a perfect market to target with that Sunday communication. Again, listening to the way you described it, you see 20,000 blogs on best time to post a social, best time to, do an email. It's like, well, it's not 8 a.m. on Monday because that's when everybody else is doing it. It really depends on who you're trying to hit. And if you have segmented the local audience to address a particular need, or as we've talked about in previous things, the job to be done, right? Saturday morning would be the perfect time to send that email out because you're reminding them that, oh yeah, I got to do that. I said I would do that. And it's available. Right.
Yeah.
So, because segmenting is so easy to go too niche,
Yeah. And there are so many complications with that. I mean, there's not only overlap, which can easily happen within one large company or one even smaller company that think that you're hitting separate audiences, but really when it gets down to it, you may have in your mind main primary persona who's an end user, but the original researcher, purchaser, owner, accountant, who knows, who's also involved in that, that becomes very, very broad and really, really wide very quickly, which can easily overlap with others as well. So that you can have conflict of messaging, or just honestly, just internal competition for the same customer, which happens when you have different databases and you don't know it.
Well, and this goes to a larger thing that I've been thinking about too recently, where with all the comments on AI and productivity gains and all the things that you can do with AI now, it's like, okay, great, we can do content at scale. But why? Because the broader you go, the less differentiated you are. In order to be differentiated, you can't do things at scale. In order to be rememberable, you can't do things at scale. And for like 15 years, we've heard the phrase, the riches are in the niches, right? Like, you can't do that at scale either.
Not really.
So, I mean, that's one of the things that I've always had. I've struggled with the idea of like programmatic SEO. Like, that makes sense for travel companies, where you're doing the really broad, whatever.
Sure.
But I don't see why you really need that for any other given thing. Like, you can't stand out. You can't differentiate on a service or making it easy on things, because it's just undifferentiated crap on automated landing pages. It just feels emotionless. Much like the complaints of the outputs of AI,
we should explain quick programmatic SEO. I think that's a term that's been thrown around, but probably not too broadly. But at least the example you gave, like with the travel companies, there's some of them produce articles on like 10 best places to visit in Cape Cod, 10 best places to visit in Brighton. And then they did it all the way down to like the smallest towns ever. And they still did 10 best places to visit and all these other ones. So that meant that basically you search activities in whatever city, and these travel companies would pop up with an article and a guide and try to throw their name in there. So I don't know. It's kind of like a, 80, 20, 90, 10 kind of rule too, that pops in here. I don't know. I was looking at, there's a recent report from June saying that Google's global search dominance is up to like 91.1% now. Like it's crazily large, to the point where we've had discussions in the last like month probably about minor search engines, and basically like, how much do we really want to spend on Microsoft and Bing? How much do we really want to push into any other one? I mean, China's an interesting location because of Baidu, but with the exception of China and Baidu, Microsoft, it's such a small percentage. It becomes this very quick question of, do we think we're going to get a return for the amount of effort? And I think the same thing goes to your point about the programmatic SEO, the at scale content generation. You're going to throw on tons of content for what? Like, maybe you're down to like, you think you've optimized everything else, and you're like, yeah, we just need that 1 more percent, because that tiny little town gets searched 10 times a month, maybe, and we'll get clicked on once a month. And we'll convert one of those a year. I mean, like, the numbers just fall apart, man. Like, and then you're going to put through how much effort to build out all that stuff, like, and make sure that it looks, at least not be destroying your brand as a result, like junk stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it totally depends on the business that you're into, right? And this goes to my larger question that I've been thinking about recently is what would be the marketing mix I would use today if I was starting something, right? Because when you and I started out, 15 years ago, it was largely create a blog, become that topic, that topical authority.
Right.
do a bunch of ads to support the content that you've created, promote it on organic social because that existed at the time. Right.
That got you something.
Right. And, you were in the top 5% of creators or, businesses if you had a subscribe to our email thing, because you actually thought of, hey, I need to have the relationship. Right. Like,
and everybody threw in on one platform and then was shocked whenever there was a major change. I think that was one of the other ones that I'm hearing less. Maybe it's just because I've been involved more with larger corporations and enterprises, but I'm hearing less about people who are, I got tanked because, man, Facebook made an algorithm change, or man, Instagram made another algorithm change. And suddenly I have like nothing for traffic because they had gone all in on one platform. It seems like today, like people used to be all in on Google, and man, the little tiny algorithm changed and suddenly it's like people's businesses would disappear.
That's still definitely a thing.
I mean, time and effort wise, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I was listening to economics podcast where they were revisiting. It was the anniversary of the Indian government banning TikTok, and what happened in the 4 years after that. Largely, everybody switched to either local options, but mostly it was Instagram and YouTube.
Sure.
But it was an interesting exploration of that. And the exact phrase that you said was one of the exact things that this clothes shop owner said was, oh my God, I have nothing. I only did TikTok. I didn't think of Instagram or YouTube or any of these other things.
Yeah.
So then no more TikTok. She had to start over and start posting on those channels. And now, now she's fine.
Learn enough platforms, but difficult to start from scratch again.
Yeah. I mean, it's a pain in the butt for sure, but also, just like investing, you want to be diversified.
Yeah. I think that gets an interesting point too, because like, again, 15 years back, everybody's always too busy for good marketing.
Yeah.
I think I can make that just as like a template and put that like on my desk somewhere, because that
hasn't changed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still true. But like that many years ago, it was the pain of building out a site and updating it and adding content and all the rest was huge. It was, I need somebody who knows how to do this stuff. WordPress was amazing. And the fact that was, for once, somebody who felt they had some technical confidence could actually maybe pull this off, but they still had bugs they run into and need help. Right. Things, of course, have changed with Squarespace. And I mean, honestly, a lot of people don't even have sites anymore. They just use a social media landing page of some sort and work off of that for a small business. That difficulty, I think, has now spread into that platform mix where you do a little bit here, but you're supposed to also be here, and you're supposed to also have a listing here, and supposed to keep this content updated here, but you're also like trying to run a pizza shop. Like, my gosh.
Right. Well, and the rise of the 0 clicks, right? I'm seeing a lot of content, at least in my feeds, of you really, if you're going to be on social, you need to be thinking of 0 click. Like, what is the strategy that you have to keep them on that platform in hopes that they recognize you and are willing to search for you later, right? Which that is such a long-term investment in things.
I think that's such a problem with small businesses, is like the concept even of attribution is just so hard. It's just, you mentioned dealerships. I was in this meeting once. It was a local car dealership chain. Mm-hmm. And this guy was talking about demanding on our paid search results. So like, I don't know if this is actually doing anything for this. What I do know is every weekend I see some guy walk in here. He's got the classifieds tucked under his arm and he circled one of our ads. So I know that's working. Like, you know what newspaper subscription like levels are like? Like you want to go all in on print? Like,
Mhm.
And even I think it was Ford at that time was forcing all partner dealers to spend, I think it was up to like a third or something like that of their provided marketing funds on digital, because they're trying to basically shift your dealerships towards that concept of digital. That actually wasn't that long ago too. So that's just amazing how like reticent some of these groups are. However, I also understand the small business plight when you see this email come in saying tons of people search for your Google search location, your Google Maps location. Okay. You got lots of views on your Instagram post. Okay. Are these things the same? No. One of them asked for directions to your shop. The other one viewed something that you had posted. These are two different activities and also might be the same person. Like the concept of attribution and then the zero click aspect of it, that is so difficult. Honestly, it's difficult for corporations to figure out. I don't know. And then that gets down to this piece of what is going to make the difference? Where should I spend my time and money?
Well, I will say the one thing, at least for me, that is a positive is when we started out, there was very much that be everywhere all the time at once.
Yeah.
Right. So you would tweet a thing out and then just use something like Buffer or Hootsuite to broadcast it everywhere.
In a
right.
Different way. Yep. Yep.
Now, at least I do think it's all right. You're familiar with LinkedIn. You're familiar with TikTok. You're familiar with whatever channel you are actively on every day. Mm-hmm. Start there. Right.
Yeah. And I guess the earlier question would be, where's your customer at? And then, from there, start there and just start pushing it on it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was talking with somebody this week just about like targetable audiences. And they're saying, well, on LinkedIn, I can see that there's so many people of this particular role is on LinkedIn. It's like, okay, doesn't mean they're searching in this particular week that you've decided your ad campaign is going to run.
Right.
Those are two different things.
Right.
So how do you find audience?
Are you familiar with Mountain, the Ryan Reynolds service or whatever?
No.
Okay. So it's we just, for clarity, we have zero relationship with these guys. Never used it.
You don't have a personal friendship with Ryan Reynolds? Not yet.
Ryan,
reach out. Dave's looking for some new friends. Reach out.
Absolutely. No. I'm not even in the same league. You kidding? I'm like a Minnesota 7, like maybe a Hollywood 3. Like,
no, but he stands next to you and you like shoot up the ranks like so hard. I mean, you're top of the world, man.
Right. I'll just make him look better because of the way I look.
Exactly. That's
it. No, but I'm intrigued by this particular service, not just because they're, you talk about good marketing. Mm-hmm. Look at the stuff that this company's been doing. It is wonderful what they're doing, and their ability to react quickly and produce ads and copy on topics that are related are amazing. But the service, if you're unfamiliar, it's Mountain. It essentially is advertising on the streaming apps.
Yeah, connected TV.
So Roku TV, Fire, Amazon Fire, yep. And so it's not necessarily TV advertising, but it is. And what you end up seeing is a lot of people who are doing video YouTube ads end up doing this over the box, TV advertising as well. And with how I was thinking the other day of just how niche so many of the programs are now.
Oh yeah.
Like that seems to be an opportunity that not a lot of companies or people are exploring, even smaller businesses. Like if you're you have home designers and rebuilders in Alabama with their own show, and then in Texas, and then in New York, and then in pick a state, right? Or you even have the international house hunters and blah, blah, blah. Like, I don't watch a lot of TV, but I know these shows exist. You know, it's like, okay, that to me is an interesting thing because you can estimate and set up some tests fairly simply based on they like watching home renovations or they like watching international travel. Yep. We should target them. Like, I feel like that is the opportunity that like display ads on Facebook was 10 years ago.
Yeah, because you're basically segmenting up that audience, looking for interests, psychographic targeting, so interest-based targeting, and then trying to figure out where is that population and where can we get basically pay for some of their attention.
Right.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. It's funny, actually, Mountain, because I was like, I remember the name. It sponsored a marketing podcast that I listened to, and I remember the name Mountain, but I remembered nothing about the company. Sorry, Mountain. You're at work. I swear I heard it a dozen times, but it didn't really stick with me.
Right. Well, they didn't email you on Saturday with what you needed to know. Like,
exactly. When I care, please send me email. When I don't care, please don't send me email. Thank you.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Sincerely, every customer everywhere.
And I think that's the interesting thing too, is, when we look at the things at scale, right? Email is one of those things that doesn't scale nicely, but there isn't a whole lot of churn, right? If you sign up for something, you pretty much let it sit in your inbox or you open it, right? Like,
yeah.
The oil change place serves a direct need that you have every 5,000 to 7,000 miles or whatever you end up,
right? However
you treat your car.
Not well, so longer. But yeah. Hence, this is probably the second or third email they've sent me. But yeah.
But you have the relationship. You're not necessarily going to delete it, because when you need them, you want that coupon, right?
Right. I want to search in my inbox while I'm literally sitting in line waiting before I pull up. Right. And that's the moment that I pull up my phone and find the thing.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it's open rates. I mean, unsubscribes versus open rates there. I mean, even that email, funny enough, before this podcast is when I actually opened it. Because with my Gmail app, I had enough of a preview that said, is Valvoline open on Sundays? The answer is yes. And it was like, that's perfect. Honestly, that's all the information I needed. I would then.
And they optimized for the channel then.
It worked. I mean, getting straight down to the answer, giving me exactly the information that I needed. I didn't click open, but I did read it, which is an interesting case.
Right.
So still to your point of not unsubscribing, but still consuming.
Right. And I think the reason I ask about the marketing mix thing now is, so my son is really into basketball. And so I've been going to a lot of basketball games and watching a lot of basketball. You can see I've got the Timberwolves shirt on today. And when it comes to an audience and interest-based targeting, and there's like no better business than a sports team if you're a billionaire and can buy a team. Because by default, you go to whatever team is in your home state.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, hometown pride. Like, especially, I find it fascinating if you look at a team like Denver Broncos. Why do you have such fierce Broncos fans? And my hypothesis is that because almost everyone in Colorado is from somewhere else, the football team is one of the few things that can bring everybody together under a common identity. and then they leave the stadium and it's back to, you know, back to reality. But for that 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
You're a Broncos fan. There's not a lot of other businesses that are like that, right? Because you're not going to buy a t-shirt of your oil change company. You're not going to, you might buy a t-shirt of your larger employer only because you have to show up occasionally in company swag. Right? Like, but for the most part, no, you're not going to willingly do that and rep the brand for free.
Minnesota Wild.
Exactly.
That's what you're on right now. Yep. Last time I've seen a game, long time. Do I still wear the swag? Absolutely. Would I wear it in public? Absolutely. Would I wear some random company's logo? Probably not.
Right. And the reason I bring this up is I've been thinking of that model, how it's like, that is so nice because you've already captured a large part of your audience. So your marketing really honestly is conversion rate optimization and just keeping in front of them, keeping them engaged. That's it. Now granted, there's a lull in the summer because you just got done with 82 games and you're probably burnt out. Especially if your team did horribly, but ours didn't. So there's that. You need that break. But in looking at like LinkedIn, one of the things that I get burnt out on is that platform in particular. After a while, I follow different thought leaders that you see doing the rounds on the different different stages, who have the followings or are generating the followings, the up and comers. But it's largely the same content. It's just their particular perspective on the same thing.
Yeah.
And you can definitely tell the people who want to become those things because it's like, it's just so much. I'm the smartest guy in the room or the smartest girl in the room and blah, blah, blah. And like, I just get so tired of that, but if you're optimizing for that particular channel, what's the alternative?
Yeah. Sorry, this just hits like any kind of product marketing cycle. You get the same question of do you try something new or do you try the tried and true because it'll be small lift, but it'll be worth something. I was just relating the story. I knew someone who was a buyer for Target, and she bought seasonal products. So Christmas
tree, the most fraught job in the entire company.
It was tough, and I had a million questions for her because how do you predict what the hot Halloween costume is going to be 2 years from now?
Right.
And she said, actually, Christmas tree style. This is one of the hardest ones, which amazingly those change. I didn't realize that. I don't know.
Green or not green, right?
Yeah, I know. I didn't really think. Pretty sure evergreens are popular. I don't know.
Yeah.
Deciduous, less popular. Maple trees, not so big. But yeah, so she said, well, basically, we can figure out what series are coming out, what sequels are coming out, and we bet hard on those sequels. And if you look at kids' Halloween costumes, they are heavily the top major brands. The same brands from 2 years ago are still present today. Why? Because that's when they put in the order in the bottom. There's a long lead time to all these things, to the internal promotion of the products that they have in store, to the distribution of them. I mean, not even talking about the manufacturing, timeline and shipping timeline to get all those crates over. Like, it's a long time. So that becomes this question of like, do you try to do tried and true sort of thing, or do you try to break through the mold? And I think every product life cycle or service or influencer, you struggle with that same question of how do you break through it to try to gain that rapid growth, the viral growth, or do you just try to, climb the mountain?
Yeah, I've been having a bunch of conversations recently, actually, around a similar topic of if you have big budgets, does that allow you to be sloppy? My answer is yes, typically.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because you can afford to just throw a ton of crap content at people and pay for frequency. But if you don't have the budget for a lot of ads, but you still need to sell your 150 widgets or 1,000 widgets a month, what do? What do you invest in? Is it the blogging because you have time? Is it the videos because you have a cell phone and somebody in the company that has a particular set of knowledge that they could easily talk about it? Or do you just create a whole bunch of emails and try to figure out which one works with your sales team? Or is it all the above, right?
I think if I were to give the advice, one, to any business owner, marketing is complex and it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
So I would break up the year with basically kind of 2-month segments. The first month is basically trying to learn and develop and set up whatever system you need for that particular activity. So let's say you're really going to get into your maps listings.
Mm-hmm.
2 months, basically get a hold of the email addresses that you need, the locations, figure out basically what it takes to verify and get on that stuff. Google can take up to 30 days if you have to do a video verification anyways. So there's your first month is setup and learning about top 10 tips and just cap it at that. You don't really have to go too far into it, especially if you've never done anything on the platform and this is your first foray. You don't need a whole lot of information to start. You can always optimize and change in the future. Month 2, implementation. Basically get into it, connect it to whatever systems like your Google Analytics or whatever you need to set up, get it done, basically get those things set up. And if there's an evergreen posting schedule, that's between month 1 and month 2, depending on the platform you've chosen, and start to come up with the content. Month 2 is basically implement the content and publish, and stick with an evergreen strategy and then take a break from it. Shift over to the next one, basically kind of keep moving and keep trying some new different things. At the end of the year, take some time to kind of reflect back on it and say, okay, what of this honestly was a drag to do and is too hard? Because you're not going to keep it up. You're not going to keep up a daily TikTok posting schedule if you think it's a horrendous activity. That's not realistic. Nobody does a blog every week. No one ever has, I don't think, has ever stuck with that for a long period of time. Or if they did, they're very, very rare. And then the other piece about that is basically from an attribution standpoint, what do you think actually was meaningful? And of these different activities, what felt like it was actually doing something, and then keep on going until you have a good idea. But you got to take some breaks in this stuff too, because the never ending deluge of content that you can get from different influencers is astounding. I mean, all the people who say, oh, you should be doing this, you should be doing this. I mean, if I took the advice of every lifestyle influencer who said, oh, you just need 15 minutes a day to do the stretches, and you just need 15 minutes a day, twice a day to do the meditation. And you also need to remind yourself every 5 minutes to be, in the moment. And you also need to spend 30 minutes every morning journaling and an hour and a half every night journaling. And then you also need to be good. It's like, my gosh, okay, where's the rest of my day? You can't take all that advice in. You have to also, for your own sanity, segment it up and break it up.
Right. Well, so as part of my job, one of the things that I like to do is be involved in the mentoring programs, right? And I had this conversation with the person that is my mentee recently of, I can tell you what worked well for me. I can introduce you to concepts around the things that you are interested in. You have to do the work, though. You have to figure out what's going to work for you. So, of course, I thought of you, Alex, and I brought up the Pomodoro method, and I said, personally, it gives me anxiety. But be aware of the concept, see if it works for you, and go from there, right?
Yeah, and I think it's also a method that I'll use on occasion when either it's an overwhelming amount of different tasks that I have and trying to just break it up and try to stay focused on those different items, or it's a task that I'm having difficulty starting, or a whole set of them that have been, sitting on the kind of the back burner end of the to-do list for a while. It's a great way to kind of clean up that list on a Friday or something like that. So yeah, even writing down a whole to-do list, I know, heck, my wife always talks about it, like gives her anxiety to like write down the whole list of like everything that's like things to do. And to me, it's like, okay, it's finally on a list. I can finally like start to work on it, like manage it.
Right.
Very
At least it's on paper. It's not being like held inside as this like
perpetual remember.
Yeah, exactly.
remember
Which in and of itself is exhausting.
Yeah.
But yeah. I mean, you have to go in and you have to play, and that's how you develop good marketing. That's how you develop good habits. That's how you develop good.
Yeah. For your mentee. So you're saying about Pomodoro versus other kind of things. You're just saying like the variety of different concepts that they could kind of take off on.
Yeah, it was a question of, dealing with overwhelm, and dealing with the idea that like, no matter what you like try to do, doesn't feel like you're getting things done. So part of it was get it on paper or a whiteboard or Kanban board or however you decide to do it. I have my preferences. And make sure that you stop and you give yourself credit for what you've already done. So those were my first two things, right? Because it's so easy just to go, and next thing. Right. But if you go next thing, you go, hey, all right, I already accomplished 3 things today. Now you're in a much better headspace because, I've already done some stuff. I can keep going. Or it's been a hell of a week. I've accomplished 3 things. I'm going to go for a walk.
I heard a funny psych one once that was make your bed every morning, even if it's like you just throw the blanket over a little bit and you call that making your bed. The idea was basically is start your day always with accomplishment. So you basically kind of keep that rolling. I've attempted it in the past, and then I found that it is useful. I mean, not necessarily that activity, but just like you get something done right away. And you think of yourself as more as like, I'm getting things done.
Right.
So you're more eager for that next task versus more resistant to it.
Yeah. I mean, I know what they're trying to get at with that.
Yeah.
But for me, I have so very little brain power every morning that I get up and I do the exact same thing in the exact same order so that I know that I did them. Because if I don't know that I did them.
Still haven't fully woken up yet.
Yeah. So then it gets to be like, lunchtime, and I'm like, did I brush my teeth today? I don't, so yeah, I definitely did, because it's number 2 on the list. Like, but that's what works for me. And
speaking of the overwhelm, there's a gratitude element, some other kind of pieces like that too, of like trying to reduce the overall stress that a lot of tasks can create, even though each one of them individually isn't probably worth all the anxiety, but the cumulative has that effect. Mm-hmm. I think that's really where that burnout, that overwhelm kind of hits, is when you are feeling like the collective pressure. I was thinking of it as like a bunch of like lit matches. One individually, not a big deal. You put 10 of them together and that's a fire. Yeah. And that's something you now need to deal with in a different way. That overwhelm, I think, is when that stuff really starts to stack up. It's hard to say no. It's hard to push back on projects, especially if you're early in your career. It's really hard to do that, or new to a role. You don't want to do that. You want to show off. You want to show that you're the hard worker, the one who can accomplish things, and all the rest. That's difficult, though. There's the phrase written down on my wall next to me: the urgent is rarely important, and the important is rarely urgent. Mm-hmm. That plays true of so many of those little like fire tasks of like, oh no, we got to do this. And it's like, probably not. Let's be honest. And then the other one, will this be important in 10 minutes, 10 days, 10 weeks, 10 years. Most things fall apart too, or embarrassing mistakes. You sent a reply all to the entire company. Yeah. 10 days, it's going to be annoying. 10 weeks, it'll be forgotten. 10 years, you'll laugh about it. Like, not really a big deal, to be honest. Mm-hmm. Scary in the moment, horrible in the moment. Like, the first 10 minutes are awful, but it won't matter pretty soon and nobody will remember it. So keep on going.
Yeah. And it's so my son is very shy and or can be. And which is appropriate for his age, right? But I looked at him the other day and I said, the secret to most things in life is that nobody really cares as much of what's going on with you as you think it is, because everybody else is too focused on themselves. Mm-hmm. And when I said that to him, you could see a light switch go off, like in his head. It was just like, wait, what? Really? Like, yeah. How often do you think of this friend or that friend or this friend? Like, how often do they think of that? Themselves? All the time? Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing. Early career. Like, yeah, you want to do a good job, but like, don't kill yourself.
My favorite psych study with that was there's a college student example where they have this guy with a really loud, obnoxious, unusual for the individual t-shirt, and they have to wear the shirt. They walk into class, they go take the class, they leave. And there's a survey that basically goes out from an entire class, including this individual, of how many people noticed your shirt. And the person wearing the shirt thinks everybody noticed. Right. And everybody else has no clue it even happened. Basically, it's really easy study, especially because it's college students, to repeat it over and over again. And it doesn't change. Basically, people really don't notice other people. They really are very self-absorbed or very focused on themselves and what they're doing, what they're next doing, what their problems and challenges are. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say the flip side of that, there was I'm not one to lose a bet. All right. So in high school, I had the long hair, I had the long beard, I had, I was very much like Big Lebowski vibe.
Gotcha.
And I was in the orchestra class, and one of the percussionists said, all right, I will give you $100 if you show up in a bathrobe like Big Lebowski. And I said, okay, have the money ready on the last day. All right. Because he never said when.
Sure.
So the very last day, to your point, timing is very important for that noticing piece, because I showed up late on purpose.
Sure.
And I walk in, I've got the white, undershirt, gym shorts, sandals, blue bathrobe, and I'm holding a glass of iced coffee, but it looks like the White Russian, right?
Very Lebowski, right? Yep. So you got it down to a T. Got it.
Down to a T. And I throw open the door.
Yep.
And the entire orchestra sees me perfectly framed in the door. And the class starts laughing, and I look at my teacher, who I had a great relationship with, and he just hangs his head and shakes his head. And the only thing he said was, that explains a lot of things.
Can you imagine the teacher being like, am I going to do anything about this?
No.
All right, let's keep going.
So yeah, timing and context are also important. But
yeah, I was thinking, because if you had said that you slipped in with the crowd, or as everybody's getting their instruments ready or something like that, and you made it into the back row where percussion is, maybe the three people around you would giggle and notice, and beyond that, they're not going to turn around in their chair because they're focused on the instrument, the music in front of them, the fact that they didn't practice, and whatever the conductor is doing. Mm-hmm. They're probably once noticed.
Right. So that was a really good school day, because A, I got to wear a robe. B, I walked out with $100.
Worth it.
Absolutely. Anyway, so this went far off from what we originally started talking about, but fun nonetheless. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, share, and hit that email link that we have in the description. Let us know what you think. Anything that resonates with you, or any good examples of good marketing you've seen recently. As we've said before, it seems sad that it's so few and far between lately, but they do exist. They do exist.
Totally.
So thank you, and we will see you in the next episode of Enterprising Minds. Take care.
Thanks, man.